I was a bit upset last night to find that I put my foot onto the hydrovane vane by mistake, and this is the damage that I did. So now that's an additional job that I have to do before I move away, which is to replace the cover. I do have a couple of spares, but they always take a little bit of time. And of course the other problem that I've discovered on going to the engine compartment was finding that a bottle of soy sauce had spilled everywhere, splashed all over the place. So I have a very strong smell of soy in the galley area at the moment. Anyway, on with the engine work. Starting with the beginning of the seawater cooling problem was to look at the strainer, the filter, and check and clean it, give it a good clean. Well, I've checked out the seawater filter, the strainer, which seems to be getting water in perfectly well. And now I'm about to get to the pump. But in opening up the engine, I'm seeing a lot of oil down there, so that's going to need cleaning up, and I need to check the oil level. Well, the oil level doesn't look too bad. This is the dipstick, but I'll just clean it up and put it in and out again and just double check. Okay, well that's good. The oil level is definitely okay, because that little mark is the maximum and it's just below that. So I might put a tiny bit in, but not too much. Don't want to overfill it. So it looks as though the oil is okay. Of course, one way that water would not be flowing through the cooling water system was if the heat exchanger pipework was clogged, but being a pretty new one, that shouldn't be a problem. So next I went on to look at the actual seawater pump itself, and you'll see there's a very rusty connection. The inlet hose has got a very rusty pipe clamp on it. Okay, so having looked at the heat exchanger and realised that that actually was newly replaced in Berkeley not so long ago, that clearly therefore can't be clogged up. It might have the odd little bits of impeller from here, but we'll have a look when I've finished opening this front cover plate and have a look inside. Well, that impeller looks perfectly good. Look at it. Nothing wrong with that. But the same couldn't be said of the cam, the wear plate that compresses the blades of the impeller. That looked very, very worn. And the cover plate also was quite badly scored by the rotation of the impeller inside. Just as I opened and then closed quickly the valve, the seacock, after having returned a very clean version of this rather gunged up looking filter back into its holder, I did exactly the same at the seawater pump. Opened and then closed the seacock just to check that there was plenty of water coming out, that the pump had water. Next job was to remove the impeller. Well, recently I found that I actually had an impeller puller in my toolkit hidden away. Pity I didn't find that out earlier. Completely forgotten I had it. And it certainly made the job of pulling out the impeller a lot easier. And so even though this impeller is looking perfectly good, the cam down here is not looking so good. So the plan now is to take that out if I can, try and get it out and give it a good clean up. But that turned out to be impossible. The other comment I had on sending a photo of this cover plate to a friend is that it looked way too scored. And so the other plan is to turn it over and clean this up. Use that for the inside because it's pretty clean. So we'll see how well how that works. So I'm quite busy now. I have to find some fine sandpaper to do that, and also see if I can do something about this very worn-looking cam. Maybe clean up the whole area and try putting in a new impeller. Of course, in order to use the cover plate reversed, I had to get rid of this label, which took a little bit of doing. Wasn't too difficult. It's obviously a rather burned original label on top of the metal plate, and then I cleaned it up to get the number of the model number, because clearly if I want to replace that pump, it's important to have the exact same model. So here we see the seawater pump, an important part of the cooling system in the engine, and that basically has failed. Well, it's quite late on Tuesday evening, and the conclusion now is that the seawater pump needs replacing, and so that's turning into a major problem, obviously. I will clean up the pump and put a new impeller in just as an emergency backup, and see whether I can get anywhere. I've got various people trying to help me with that, and it's all a matter of time and availability, so we'll have to see how that goes. For the time being, I'm going to get myself to my bunk, get some sleep, and work on that tomorrow. As I say, I do have a couple of people helping me with that, so we'll see how far we can get and how quickly I can get a pump out to me, so I can take off the old one and replace it with a new one with the gear to make things simpler. So if anyone has a spare water pump with the gear for a Yanmar 4JH4AE, maybe they can just fly overhead and gently lower the pump to me at anchor. That would be fantastic. Good night all.